We're back to making some more flying geese, but this time we're going to do a little twist on it. We're going to make it where we have two different colored little triangle tips here. So when we do our 4 at a time method, we're going to get 2 mirror image sets of our flying geese units. So I'm going to show you how to do that. It's kind of fun, something different. So we will set these aside. And we're going to do the same method where we start with our bigger square, and then our other squares that we're going to start with are going to be this 2 of the same color, and we're going to draw diagonal lines from corner to corner, just like we've been doing with all the other flying geese. Okay. And then while we're here, I'm just going to go ahead and draw the lines on the other 2, but we won't use those until we sew and cut those apart. So I'm just going to have them ready to go. So when we're doing this, again, we're going to have 2 different wing tip color variations, but we're going to start with our piece that has 2 of the same color fabrics first when we do this step. So we'll just line those up a smidge inside the bigger piece, and where our line is kind of connecting, they will overlap, and we're going to go ahead and sew a 1/4 inch on each side of that line. Okay, let's sew these squares on, and we're going to line them up and start stitching. I need to check. I thought my bobbin ran out, but I think we're okay. Yep, looks good. Okay, just keep stitching. And then I'm just going to kind of pull a little bit out and flip it around, do the other side. Okay, so we have our 2 rows of stitching there on each side of that drawn line, and let's go ahead and cut that apart. Okay, and we're back to our cutting mat, and let's go ahead and slice those apart. I'm going to line my edge of ruler up to that drawn line and just give those a quick trim. Looks good. And we can set this aside. And then let's go ahead and press these. And I'm just going to set the seam and do a quick like finger roll press. I just want to make sure that whole seam is right where I want it to be, and I can feel it with my fingers if I do it that way. Okay, so that side is ready, and let's press this one. Okay, and then our next step is we're taking our other color, and we have 1 square on this set, and we're going to place 1 square here on this set, and let's go ahead and do our sewing where we go on each side of both those lines. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and stitch those. And I'm trying to do both at the same time here. Okay, just flip that around. Okay, and let's clip these little tails in here. That just saves on some thread there if you can do a little bit of chain piecing. All right, let's go cut those apart and see what we got. Okay, let's go ahead and we're going to cut on that drawn line that was corner to corner. Okay, and we'll do the same on this piece. Alrighty, and move the cutting board. Okay, and let's press these. So I'm going to just heat set each one there and then flip it back with my fingers. Just add the next one. Oh, these are so cute. Okay, so we've got 4 pressed. And so then let's see what we ended up with here. We've got 2 where the yellow's on this side and 2 where the yellow's on this side. And that's exactly what we were after. So let's go ahead and trim those down to the size that we need. And I'm going to be using this little block lock ruler that I can slide right onto my unit, and I'm going to trim on all 4 sides. Okay, and looks pretty good. Just a little bit of waste. Okay. And one more set here. This was the other colored, the mirror image set. Okay. Very good. So then we have 4 geese, a little bit of trimmings there that we're done with, and then let's go ahead and work on some more parts of our block. For the center of our block, I've kind of got it laid out here on a design board so we can see what we're going to do. And we're first going to sew these into a little 4-patch unit. So we'll sew these 2 together and then these 2 together, then joining them to make a 4-patch. And then we're going to add a side piece to each one, and then a top and bottom piece. So let's go ahead to the sewing machine and work on that right now. Okay, at the sewing machine, we're going to work on our 4-patch here in the center. So I'm going to line 2 of my pieces right sides together and just kind of make sure the whole shape lines up. And then we're going to do the other piece. Get that lined up just right. Okay, and whoops, my thread didn't trim right there. Okay, and I'm going to cut this joining piece, and then I'm going to kind of just press it open with my fingers for now. And then I'm going to press the seam towards the darker fabric here. And then we're going to line that up so that we have the opposites. And since I did my seams to the dark, they should just line right up next to each other. They kind of lock into place there. And then we're going to stitch that seam together. Okay, so we have that seam done. And again, I'm just going to kind of finger press that open. And that looks good. That's what we're after. Nice little 4-patch unit. Okay, and then we want to make sure we've got it oriented correctly. And we do. We're going to have the green up here. And then let's go ahead. Then this will be our side. And I'm going to line up my side piece. And it looks good. Line up both of my ends. And trim that, flip it, and we'll add this other side. Okay, we got those ends all lined up. Okay, and then I'm going to do just a quick finger press towards the dark fabric, and it should look like that. I'm just going to hop on over to the ironing table and give it a quick press. Okay, and then let's go ahead and add that top and bottom unit. And you want to make sure our edges, both edges, are lined up. Okay, these kind of blocks where you have a centerpiece and then we're going to put sides and tops and bottoms, this is a good place to test out and see how our 1/4 inch seam is coming along. When we did our 4 patch, that created a new size, which is what the little side panels are equal to. And that should line up exactly to, if we did our 1/4 inch seam correctly, it should be the same size. So our seam, or when we put it on there, that both pieces should match here and here. Now, if it's a little bit off, you can kind of center it so that you split the difference, whether if your top piece is a little too big, you can hang it a little bit over here and a little bit over here. And maybe, I'm not really big on, pulling your block to fit. If it's just off by a little bit, I'm okay with just having a little tiny bit because that'll get caught in your next seam. If it's off by a lot, then I would make sure that I had cut these the correct size here and check your 1/4 inch seam. And so these here, when I've done my 1/4 inch seam test, I know where I have to stitch what I'm looking for on my presser foot to achieve the 1/4 inch seam. And your 1/4 inch seam isn't necessarily that your threads are 1/4 inch away from here. It's the seam is made up of the edge of your fabric all the way over to your stitch line, your thread, plus the fold of this fabric coming back. So that all equals a 1/4 inch seam. So most times, I guess you could say it's more of a scant 1/4 inch seam on my sewing machine because that gives me the exact size I need to fit the blocks. Now I do use a lot of starch, and so I think that adds a little bit of thickness too. So I just have kind of figured out, doing some tests, where my 1/4 inch seam is that I'm comfortable doing so that all my pieces line up. So let's go ahead and get this one on there. And again, you can use pins. The shape gets a little bit bigger, and so sometimes pinning is helpful. Okay, and while we're here, we're just going to do this one as well. Okay, and I'm lining up both of my edges, and it looks good. Okay, and let's go press that, see what it looks like, and we'll add the next round to our block. Okay, we're ready to piece our block, and this block does have our little checkerboard kind of border around it. So in between piecing these together, I'm going to go ahead and just use these in groups of 2 just to keep from breaking my thread. And we're going to see if that works to get all these sewn together. So I'll be doing that intermittently. Okay, I got those all joined, and I think To make those lie nice and flat, I'm going to go ahead and press those seams open. So I'm going to go over to the pressing table and I'm going to press those open. Okay, I have all of the flying geese sections done, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of now work and piece it together like a 9 patch. So I'm going to start with these pieces here, and again, you can pin if you want. I'm just going to go ahead and line up the edges, and it seems to want to fit perfectly. And then in between, I'm going to do one of these. And I can clip everything apart. And then since I have enough room here, I'm going to go ahead and add the top part. And then when I do my pressing, nothing's going to get in the way because there's plenty of space between those. Okay, and then that will be ready to press. And then we're going to add our little red pieces on our sides. Okay, and before we go press, I'm just going to go ahead and sew the rest of these together, and then we can do all of our pressing at one time. Oh, and my thread just broke. So we're going to go ahead and fix that. We'll finish sewing this one, and then we'll do some pressing. Okay, I'm just going to press some of these little square units, and I'm going to press this seam open. I think it lays flatter, and since there's so many little seams there that's going to be surrounding our block, it just seemed to work best to press these open. Okay. And then here, okay, on these, I'm going to press my seam towards the middle since this piece here does not have any seams in it, and then this one will lay a little bit flatter. And so I'm just going to roll it with my fingers. and flip it around. And roll it and press it. Okay. And then when I join these on, I pressed my seams towards this red, so they should nest in there ever so nicely. And then let's go add those to our blocks and finish with the little piece border. Okay, and I'm just going to sew a few of these just to kind of get started here. And to add this piece, I am going to, you can pin if you want. I'm going to go ahead and just make these seams join right up next to one another and kind of hold my finger there as it was like a pin. Okay, and then I'm going to come down here, actually further towards the end, and just kind of hold that one into place. And just keep lining it up as I go. And we'll sew some more of these, just that way I don't have to cut the thread. It's kind of like a chain piecing. And cut all of these apart. Okay, and we'll press those. And then let's add this next row on. And flip it right sides together. Gonna nest that first one right up there. That looks good. And again, we'll do a few more. And one more set of these, and then we'll go do some more pressing. Okay, we're back at some pressing. Let's cut these apart. And I'm just going to do a quick press on these. Okay. And these, I'm just going to give them a little heat set. And roll it back. Oh, I just love how that turned out. So cute. Okay, let's do this side. Okay, our center of the block there looks really nice. And now we're going to be ready to add on our piece border around it. So the longer ones, I think I'm going to put at the top and the bottom. And then we'll do the shorter ones on the side, and we'll get those added on and press, and then our block will be complete. Okay, let's get these added on. So I've got this one. I'm just going to flip it over so they're right sides together. And I do have one seam to line up there, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure my edges are lined up good. I'm going to line that seam. And okay. That looks pretty good. So let's do the other side. And we'll get those right sides together. Same thing, kind of line up our edges. That first set of seams. Okay, that looks good. And I'm just going to give that a quick press. And we're going to go ahead and add the top and bottom, and then our block will be done. And our block has grown much bigger, so we have a lot more points on this last part that we can line up. So I'll just start by matching my two ends here in this first set of seams and just kind of start, and then I'll just stop more frequently and line up as I go. Okay, that one's done. And we'll just do a quick check. I'm kind of just making sure I've got green, blue, green, blue, green, blue. That looks good. And then our last one. And we'll do the same thing and get this one on. Okay, I'm going to line up my ends and then that first seam intersection. Okay, and we've got that one added, and I'm going to do just a quick press, and then our block is complete. And it looks good. Happy sewing!